This is the Washington Times front page for Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024. Thanks for joining us. I'm George Gerbo. President Biden became the latest to expand the limits of presidential powers with the broad pardon of his son, Hunter. Jeff Murdoch and Stephen Dinan report legal analysts say they can't fathom an analogy for the president's action, which had no limits on the type of crimes pardoned and covered an unprecedented period. The full and unconditional pardon applies to Hunter's federal convictions of tax dodging and illegally purchasing and possessing a firearm and covers any possible crimes for the past decade. Republicans and some Democrats said the president stretched propriety and gave political cover to his successor, Donald Trump, to assure future pardoning actions. The Supreme Court will hear a legal challenge to a Tennessee ban on medical treatment for transgender youths. Enacted last year, Alex Warrer reports Tennessee's law, known as SB 1, prohibits the use of puberty blockers and sex reassignment surgeries for minors. The court will decide whether the law violates the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, which requires governments to treat everyone equally. It's the first major transgender rights case the court has heard since 2020, when it decided a civil rights case in favor of LGBTQ challengers, granting them protection from workplace discrimination. The House panel that investigated the pandemic's origin says the coronavirus that caused COVID-19 most likely leaked from a Chinese lab where researchers were intentionally manipulating the virus. In its final report, Stephen Dinan reports the House Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic faulted U.S. health officials for discrediting the lab leak explanation and instead pushing the theory that the virus originated in nature. The panel chided the U.S. government at all levels for botched responses to the pandemic. It said the 6-foot social distancing rule was devised without a scientific basis, mask mandates don't appear to have mattered, and lockdowns hurt the economy and created mental health problems for many Americans. President-elect Trump says there would be all hell to pay if hostages held in the Middle East are not released by his inauguration. Tom Howell reports the social media threat suggested he would be willing to use direct U.S. military action to free the hostages. Trump's post did not mention Hamas or the Gaza Strip specifically, though the presumed context would be the roughly 100 hostages held by Hamas since the assault on Israel October 7th of last year. And finally, Saudi Arabia, the host of Trump's first trip abroad during his first White House term, is emerging as the linchpin of his ambitious Middle East strategy for his second. Ben Wolfgang reports analysts say Iran's leaders are aware that Trump may resume his quest for a grand bargain to bring about diplomatic normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia. In exchange, Israel would commit to an eventual Palestinian state, and the U.S. would give the Saudis security guarantees from its military. It could also require Saudi Arabia to loosen its economic ties with China, which is becoming a Middle East power player in its own right. Find all today's front page stories at WashingtonTimes.com/front page or on the Washington Times app, and find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on social media at Wash Times for breaking news, sports, commentary, and more. For the Washington Times, I'm George Gerbo.